probably been diagnosed with cancer, or maybe someone you love or care for deeply has been diagnosed with cancer. Either way, you are here and you need someone to demystify cancer for you. Just a simple, honest explanation of what it is and the cure. You will not like it, but I will give you a simple explanation and proof for what cancer is. Now you have been down every rabbit hole and are probably more confused than when you first asked the question, so I'm going to tell you the honest answer. The scientists have no idea what cancer is, but I do. Even though they do not know what cancer is, they do know exactly how cancer operates. They have studied cancerous tumors under microscopes and found that they are living cells that split through a process they call mitosis, which is true. Yet they do not understand why this happens, but I do. Their leading theory is that through many eons of evolution we have many types of junk DNA that is degraded by over 100 carcinogens, which could be any chemical found in food, water, detergents or toiletries that cause these dormant inactive genes to activate, mutate, and replicate uncontrollably. I do not agree with this theory of theirs because I do not believe in evolution. I believe that every problem has a rational and easy explanation. But before I can tell you what cancer is, I must first tell you how one gets cancer. Nearly every time we get sick, it is bacterial or viral in nature. The bubonic plague that swept through Europe, killing between 75 to 200 million people, was a bacteria that the rats were carrying, which was transmitted to humans via flea bites. The West Nile virus was carried by monkeys and transmitted to humans by mosquito bites. Blood-sucking insects spread disease. When a blood-sucking insect bites you, it needs to know if it has penetrated all the layers of skin. It does this by attempting to extrude the contents of its stomach into you. But if it can't push out, then it can't suck in. With mosquitoes, you will see them plant their back legs and push harder. Once they penetrate all layers of skin and are able to dispel the contents, they begin sucking your blood. If they have a virus or bacteria in their stomachs from the animal they bit before you, then you get that virus or bacteria in you. That is how you get sick a good portion of the time. Other times you might get sick from touching things like ATM keypads or doorknobs, which have bacteria or viruses on them, and then touching your eyes, nose or mouth without first washing your hands. If you think I am wrong, feel free to fact check me. But let's not get sidetracked. However, cancer is passed on through the same process, by blood-sucking insects. Yet it is not viral or bacterial in nature, but is a biological entity. Now before you cry bull crap and click away, first hear me out and I will show you irrefutable proof, or the proverbial smoking gun. The back panel reads, "This is especially true in cases of tapeworms transmitted by fleas, where reinfection is almost certain to occur if fleas are not removed from the animal and its environment. If reinfection occurs, tapeworm segments may be observed within 1 month of the initial treatment." Now let me be clear, when they are speaking of tapeworms being transmitted by fleas, they are referring to the eggs or cells of the tapeworms, not actual full-grown tapeworms. When an animal initially gets tapeworms, they are usually in the stomach, but will come out in the excrement. When you realize your dog or cat have tapeworms, you take them to the vet, and the vet checks out the animal and gives you this box and tells you to follow the instructions closely, so you end up buying a bottle of flea bath shampoo and powder to sprinkle on the carpet. You must kill all the fleas first. If you followed the instructions and killed all the fleas first, then you can feed the dog the little doggy bone biscuits laced with fenbendazole, and within hours all the tapeworms in your dog are dead. Your dog is cured and free of those horrible parasites. But what if you didn't read the back panel? This is when a nightmare scenario plays out, but for you to understand I must walk you through it for you to get why I say that parasite cells or eggs are cancer. So let's continue. Your dog has full-grown tapeworms in its stomach. You bought the box knowing the medicine will help your dog. You are in such a hurry to cure your dog that you feed the biscuits to the dog without removing the fleas. Why is this so bad? Because tapeworms reproduce 2 different ways. When they are full-grown, they copulate just like any other species. Their eggs go all throughout the dog's body. The fleas suck the blood of the dog, and now the fleas have the tapeworm's eggs in its stomach. The medicine does its work and kills the adult tapeworms in the dog's stomach. But later on, the fleas bite the dog and place the parasite eggs back under the dog's skin. Now your dog is reinfected. But how does an egg or a single cell, which is not a sentient organism, make its way from just under the skin all the way back to the dog's stomach in just a month? Good question, glad you asked. Remember when I said that tapeworms reproduce two ways? The second way is called asexual reproduction. What is asexual reproduction? You are on fire today, once again glad you asked. Asexual reproduction is when a parasite cell or egg splits, which is called mitosis. Remember when I said that scientists placed living cells under a microscope and saw them splitting but didn't understand why? This is cancer cells reproducing uncontrollably and forming tumors. And this is asexual reproduction of parasite cells, both are mitosis. These scientists automatically assume just because the cell was living and came out of a human that it was a human cell, but the fact is that if a dog can be bit and be reinfected, then a human can be bit as well and become infected. It's arrogance to think otherwise. But let's continue the scenario. The cell is under the skin and it waits, but what is it waiting for? It's waiting for a growth hormone to trigger it to start growing into full adulthood, but that growth hormone only comes from food and it's not in the belly, so it never comes. All cells have a finite amount of time before they die. The cell knows it has reached its lifespan and it knows it is in the wrong place. So it begins to split, but it passes on an extra piece of info so that the new second cell doesn't make the same mistake of waiting. It tells the second cell to immediately start splitting. So the first cell dies. This is why it is so hard to get rid of tapeworms. They are a resilient species that have many tricks. The second cell is not sentient, but it does have encoded DNA, and it has been given a mission: split. As a survival mechanism, each new cell begins to split until it forms a tumor under the dog's skin. The tumor invades everything it touches: bone, muscle tissue, organs. But when it touches a vein, that is when all hell breaks loose. This is what the doctors would refer to as metastasizing, meaning it spreads all throughout the whole body and yes, eventually ends back in the stomach a month later. But now your dog has lumps under its skin and tapeworms, so you take it to the vet. The vet examines the dog and tells you that your dog has cancer and tapeworms and keeps the dog for 3 months while he cares for it, and he gets rid of the tapeworms but surprisingly cures the cancer as well. Shocker, right? Your dog can be cured of cancer easy peasy, but when it comes to humans it's an incomprehensible ordeal. There is zero difference between the cancer a dog gets and the cancer a human gets. The vet gives your dog a dog dewormer medicine like fenbendazole, Panacur, or ivermectin. And poof, the cancer in your dog disappears. I'm sure I don't need to spell it out for you, but I will anyway. The cancerous tumors in dogs are masses of parasite cells, or one could say nests of parasite eggs. The dog dewormer kills these eggs the same way it kills full-grown adult tapeworms. The only difference is that it takes longer to kill parasite tumors because you have to kill them from the outside in, and sometimes those tumors can get quite large. Imagine a colony of billions of eggs. But when it comes to an adult tapeworm that is sentient, kill the brain, kill the worm. But let's play out a different scenario. You are giving your dog a bath, but those fleas are trying to survive and jump off the dog, that's in the water, and onto you, then bite you. Now you have tapeworm cells under your skin. The first one dies and the second splits into a colony of eggs. A few months later you notice a lump under the skin in your arm and also a few in your breasts. You are thinking the worst, so you go to the hospital. The doctor says he needs to get a tissue sample. He then sends that to pathology where they put it under a microscope. Yep, the cells are splitting. The doctor comes back and with a smile says, "Good news, you don't have cancer. What you have is an infestation of parasite cells. Just go to the pharmacy and you will be given a bottle of mebendazole with 5 free refills. This will slowly shrink the tumors until they are gone. See you in 3 months." Let me assure you, since the beginning of cancer diagnosis, this has never happened. The doctor will come back and ask you to sit down. With your heart beating out of your chest and your ears ringing, he will solemnly give you the heart-wrenching news: you have cancer. He will then go on to tell you, "But don't worry, we caught it soon and you will be referred to X hospital where they have X number of treatments and patient survival in the early stages are X%. Not one person has ever been diagnosed with parasite tumors, not even one. And why do you suppose that is? Maybe because fleas don't bite humans. No. Maybe because fleas can't pass on bacteria, viruses, or other biological entities such as tapeworms or parasites. No. Maybe because doctors and scientists are too blind, arrogant, or conceited to believe such things. Absolutely. Not one doctor has ever taken a tissue sample, handed it off to a nurse and said, "Send this off to the DNA lab to find out if these splitting cells are human DNA or parasite DNA." If you told a doctor that the cure for cancer was a dog dewormer, he would roll his eyes. He would then point to his plaque on the wall from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Stanford, or Harvard and say, "If that were so, I think they would know and would have taught me." So let's step back into reality and let me be the doctor. Now hold still while I cut, burn, or poison you. At the peril of sounding like a conspiracy nut, they are the gatekeepers and are guarding a trillion-dollar empire called the cancer medical industry. Do you think they really want a cure? Obviously not. And do you know how much crow they would have to eat if the public knew the truth? Scientists would never admit to being outwitted by a nobody like myself. But here are more facts. All the animals in the zoo, including all the primates, are safely given fenbendazole, a dewormer, and they never get cancer and outlive their counterparts in the wild by double, which do get cancer. The majority of cancer tumors are found just under the skin. Our human muscle tissue is only red or white. If it were our own human DNA that was replicating, then the only two colors that cancer should be are white or red, right? Now if I were to ask if a white couple that was faithful had a child, what color do you suppose the baby might be? If you were to say a 99% chance the baby would be white, then you would be right. Now same scenario, but I changed the loving parents to be a black couple. You might say, a 99% chance the baby will be black, and you would be right. The reason I bring up these common sense scenarios of color is because cancerous tumors are white, red, beige, tan, yellow, brown, black, pink, orange, blue, and green. Because the tumors come in many colors, not just red and white, they make up this wild but plausible theory of evolutionary junk DNA. After all, if you were descended from a lizard, that might explain why your tumor is green or brown. If you were descended from a snake, it might explain a bevy of colors. But here's the truth: a black parasite will produce black eggs or cells, while a white parasite will produce white eggs or cells. Another harsh fact: the colors of parasites a human can get are red, white, beige, tan, yellow, brown, black, pink, orange, red, blue, and green. Yes, the exact same colors as the cancer tumors. Because they are not cancer tumors, they are clustered eggs or offspring of parasites. Now comes my warning. If a tumor gets in the wrong place, it can be deadly. If it's remove the tumor by invasive surgery or they die soon, I would opt for the surgery. But if it's we caught it early, or even you are stage 4, go home and get your hospice ready, then I would go for mebendazole. Secondly, if they raise the price of mebendazole, which is the human-approved dewormer, too high, then you can use the animal version, fenbendazole. But you must be careful with the dosage. If all the primates, gorillas, baboons, and chimpanzees, our supposed third cousins, can safely take fenbendazole, so can we. You have to be careful with pets around your children. Take for instance, if a cat or puppy with an infestation snuggled up to your newborn baby's head, which has an open passage to the brain, then that might explain why your now 2 or 3-year-old child has a walnut-sized brain tumor. If your 5 to 8-year-old has a tumor somewhere between the thigh, belly, or sternum, it's probably because they sit with their pet in their lap or carry the animal around. If your teenager has no pet, but runs or hikes paths, then they might have tumors or even bone cancer below the knee. If you sleep with your pet, then you might have tumors wherever the pet tends to lay against you. Even with cancer, most adults will probably never get tapeworms back in their stomachs because it is too far for the cells to travel before their invasive presence degrades your organs and kills you. Opposingly, a child cancer patient will probably have to fight parasitic stomach infestations every couple of months, go figure. But the larger the child, the less likely that is to occur. There are probably parasitic wards in children's cancer hospitals, while there are none in adult cancer hospitals. However, these cells feed off glucose, so if you stop all sugar intake, sodas, candies, bread, then tumor growth will also halt. Yet they will not decrease until you take a dewormer. If you made it to the end and agree, then give this video a thumbs up, like, subscribe, and send this to cancer patients.